Friday night, and that means it's the ART Gr.4 MR Challenge Round 5 this evening. I'm your commentator for the evening, SuperSquid, as always, and we are getting ready to start qualifying at Dragon Trail Gardens, one of the more technical, difficult tracks that Gran Turismo has to offer out of its original circuits. But let's see if our drivers are up to the test this evening. If you think you've got what it takes to mix it with the best in a wide variety of competitions and events, ranging from Mazda touring car roadsters into these Group 4 beasts, or maybe you got a lot of time to kill on a Sunday evening and want to challenge yourself with a 3-hour endurance, or anything in between, you'll find a link down in our Discord, or link down below to our Discord, as well as our newly revamped website. Check it out and see what is on offer. We welcome drivers of any ability from anywhere in the world. Get involved, you will not regret it. So I'm just going to quickly share our link in the Discord so people can get viewing. I think we've got Mo in the chat already. Good evening, Mo. I hope you're doing well. And of course, to everybody else watching at home, I hope you're all safe and well. So, what's on offer for tonight? If I quickly get to my little cheat sheet that our host for the evening, Wayne, has prepared as we ride on with him now. Maybe from the front would be a more interesting view, I think, if I can get a keyboard to work. There we go. So, Wayne reckons that with our race lasting for approximately 1 hour, we should be looking at around 35, 36 laps. Now, in the popular choice, the McLaren, which most people will be driving this evening, if they go all out, they'll probably do about 19, maybe 20 laps, and it should take us about halfway into the race. So it could be a one-stop if the drivers are very aggressive, but of course, with the increased pit lane time, you're likely to see that cost them as they head back out onto the track. I think we've got Tom in the chat. Evening, Tom. Hope you're doing well, mate. So, ones to watch this evening will be this man here alongside Wayno, our host for the evening, will be ART Seth. He and Simo in the Porsches had an awful run out in the BB Raceway due to the oval BOP. A disastrous event for them both, finishing at the very bottom of the pecking order. Indeed, Simo as well, who spun 2 or 3 times more than he would have liked to. So he'll be looking to keep it on the black stuff for this evening. As you can see in the comments, I've shared the link to some of my other racing colleagues who maybe aren't taking this quite seriously. But we're glad for the interaction anyway, boys. You should get yourselves into ART while you can. You'll be having a fantastic event, no matter what you pick. Speaking of friends that aren't from other leagues, we've got Lays 1 Star, back again as always, in the red and white McLaren. The only Dane on the grid, I believe, in the whole event for the MR Challenge. I would like to see one of our other fellow Danes join the grid for this event. I think he'd have a real good race in his hands, but for the time being, it is just Lays, just the 1 star from Denmark, it seems. One to watch out for tonight as well will be this guy in the pits at the moment, Oscar Zero, driving the Alfa Romeo. We saw him have a phenomenal race last week at the Oval, starting from, I believe, the very back, all the way up into, I think it was 4th place, just pipped on the line by Lays 1 Star, as a matter of fact. But from what I've been told, tonight's race is going to be an absolute killer on the tyres. We've got several high downforce corners that drivers we're having to navigate this evening. If we run on board here with Willie D in the Falcon livery McLaren, as he makes his way through this 1, 2, 3, 4 apex right-hander. Perhaps that's not the most efficient way to do it, Willie D, but this is going to be a real ruiner for the tyres as they have to balance the throttle in and out of this tricky complex here, slowly edging away at their tyre wear. Speaking of tyres, as always, the drivers will be able to choose from the racing hards, mediums, softs and super softs, but they only get 1 stint on each compound at most, or they have a 1-minute penalty if they don't change it within 1 lap's time. So you see Willie D, I think he's done his practice on the softs. As we've seen before, he likes to start at the back and work his way to the front. So we'll see if he goes for that one again today. Following just down the track there is Seth F1, as we mentioned before, didn't have a great time in the Porsche. Our only Aussie on the grid this evening. So we'll have to see how he gets on. Will he be able to bring the thunder from down under? And just trailing behind him as well, we had, I believe it was Brett Rackett in the shot there. He's decided to ditch the red and black, very angry looking McLaren in exchange for this much more notable green one. And now that he's learned he doesn't have to use every single compound in the race, I'm sure he'll be a much more stronger competition for our faster drivers this evening. Mohammed can't see links in the chat. I'm going to put the links in the description of the video when we've finished for this evening. I might be able to do them now if I can get to the right places, but I'm sure I'll find a way to mess that up before we get there. Let's see if I can just copy all of that in. So we'll save that there. And maybe the description will be updated now, I'm not overly sure. But all the links will be in the description of the video to join the Discord, check out the website, and if you search for Amigos Racing Team on Facebook, you'll find our page there as well. This will be the last event for for about 2 weeks, as next week the elite drivers of the Amigos Racing Team will be taking part in the GT Fusion Championship. So this will be suspended, as will the other events, including the newly launched Mitsubishi Hybrid Sprints, which are on a Tuesday event. Very, very exciting. Watch those are as well. But don't worry, there'll be a new selection of temporary special events for next week to keep everybody's racing needs sated for that 7-day period. I can't remember what they all are off the top of my head, but if you want to get involved again, join us in the Discord. There will guaranteed be something to your taste. We're also launching a Formula 1 2020 series and an Assetto Corsa Competizione series, although that is PC only. So if you're taking part in those games as well, have a look in our Discord and see if there's something in there for you. You may have noticed in the bottom left corner that Wayne is going to be starting qualifying in 1 minute. So the drivers will have a 10-minute qualifying session to familiarise themselves with the track and try and get the optimal spot on the grid. Of course, the interesting point for this will be which tyres do they start on? Do they want to risk their qualifying for a longer first stint where they've got a heavier car to start the race? Or do they want to get rid of those softer tyres and get rid of the rest of the pack at the same time? That'll be the balancing act for them in the first section of tonight's proceedings. As we follow Tom Williams here, going through this long left-hander, one of the first corners where it's going to drain on these cars' tyres. The next part to watch out for as we follow him on board is this chicane here. The first left isn't too bad, but this little sausage curb on the right here and the left here as well, ones to watch out for. You can see he's given them plenty of space there. Even just the slightest rumble over those with those front tyres can offset the balance of the car massively. And last thing you want to do is have a spin all the way down into this tricky hairpin here. I'm not sure how much of that he's going to cut off. Quite a lot of it, so that's good. You can use a lot of that in a rumble strip there. But we'll see if they're going to risk it for the chocolate biscuit as we head into our 10-minute qualifying session. So we can see that Jovis and Brett have both decided to head out first on the mediums. I believe the drivers are able to change which tyre compound they qualify on tonight. So if they decide the mediums aren't the tyres they want to be starting on, they can always jump in for the softs or the hards or the super softs. But they will have to start the race on the tyre that they set their fastest laps on. Now it might be in Brett's best interest as well, as he closes right onto the back there of Jovis the Slovenian, if he wants to overtake him and get some clear out, or just drop back a little way so he's not in the slipstream and right up behind him as they head into the trickier parts of the track. That chicane at the start of the track, I've mentioned, is one of the places you really don't want to be stuck behind someone getting their dirty air and their turbulence, and you really don't want to be up close into this quadruple right-hander. As we run on board with him there, you can see he clips that first apex quite nicely, washes out a little wide for the second one, but he'll be using that instead to cut tightly into the third one and the fourth one, which he does very well there. And I say he's a fairly good distance from Diovis now, so he should have plenty enough of a gap to to avoid being caught up behind him as they start their qualifying laps. You see the Simo caught a penalty at the start of the lap, but he's burnt that off now, and he's going to take a wide berth there into the final corner to take all his momentum down the main straight. As I mentioned, what feels like countless times already, these Group 4 cars aren't massively fast in terms of sheer brake horsepower alone, but instead the drivers need to make use of the momentum they carry through the corners, especially sweeping long bends like this, to make sure that they extract the most performance out of these machines tonight. So let's see, how brave are they? You can see Brett getting quite high over that curb there, causes him to have a little bit of a slide, as we maybe see if we get a track of that again. So he's fairly tight into the first corner here, using all of the rumble strip there. But you see he gets unsettled over that first sausage curb, and I think again on the second one, getting a little bit of wheel spin as well. So that's not what he wants as he heads down the straightaway. So hopefully he'll be bearing that in mind as he heads onto his second lap. You can see we've got Simo just behind him there, also on the medium tyres, and lays on the hard compound tyres. So this will see him start further down the grid than he would like, but as I feel he's been working on his tyre saving very much since the previous few events, this should put him in better stead to make a longer first stint. We've got a new driver on the grid this evening as well, ART Happy T. He has joined Seth and Simo in the Porsche Cayman GT4 as he overtakes Simo there in the black livery this time for the Porsche. Hey, that Happy T is very, very fast, so he may well be one to watch out for this evening. He's just overtaken Simo, who went a little bit wide there in that quadruple right-hander. But he's got quite a healthy gap back to Simo in 6th place. So as the drivers first set their laps, as Simo flashes the lights up there, as they set their first few laps, we'll see who's going to take top spot for the time being. It's going to be Happy T with 1:39.1. So there'll still be time to find in that lap, but they've probably got another 2 or 3 laps left in them, I'm sure. We see Seth trump that time there, putting him up into a 1:38 flat. So that's a whole second clear of Happy T. But he is on the soft tyres, so it looks like he'll be trying to make a quick getaway at the start of this race, unless Happy T can find another healthy chunk of time to catch up. And you see Beardy has had a bit of an incident there. He's very sensibly pulled off the racing line. Maybe you get a quick look at what's happened to him there. So maybe he's carried a little bit too much speed there, and on the hard tyres, well, he's just not got the grip. He's ended up coming off the track entirely, but very sensibly keeps it to the inside and tries not to impede Seth on his hot lap. Good drive in there from the McLaren pilot. So our current provisional qualifying order with about half the session remaining is Seth F1, a second clear of Happy T. So he's on the soft as well, so maybe Happy's got a little bit more time to find himself then. We've got Diovis in third, who's done very well there, probably using that slipstream of Brett Rickett to hoist him up the grid order a little bit more. We've got ART Rabbit down in fourth there. He's just tailed off on Buenos, who won't have any slipstream up the hill. Brett, who is towing Diovis down the straight, in 5th place at the moment. Moving up to third with a cracking time there, 1:39.2. Happy T does narrow the gap there to Seth by about half a second, so he's now set there at 1:38.5. A very fast time indeed, but still half a second off the pace of his fellow Porsche driver who's dipped into the pits, possibly with a new set of tyres, unless he's going to put time on his lap indeed there. We can see that Beardy's qualified on the harder tyres, so maybe he's going to come in for a fresh set and go back out again. In 6th place, Wayno is in 7th, also on the hard tyres, setting his best time of a 1:41.0. But like he's just been bested by Oscar there, who's set a 1:39.9, so he just nipped in ahead of him there as well. Simo does like he's had a very good qualifying session at the moment. He's down in 10th currently on the medium tyres, but maybe he'll be using his time just to burn up a little bit more fuel and set in an absolute fly of a lap towards the end of the quali. You have to watch out for him as the session winds down. Lays one start, down 11th at the moment. His fastest time being a 1:41.2. But I'm sure he's still got a bit more to pull out as he's already 3.5 tenths up in the exit of the second sector. And at the very back, we've got Tom Williams, whose fastest time seems to be a 1... well, actually, I don't know if he's set an actual hot lap at the moment, it seems. So this will be a point for him as Seth pulls off the racing line, lets him go through. So Tom Williams, I think, he's the only person still not to actually set a flying lap time, but this will be his first of what I believe maybe to be 2 or 3 opportunities at most. So Simo does take himself off of the bottom spot there with a 1:40 dead. Good enough for 8th place. Wano pops in behind him with a 1:40.7. Rabbit meanwhile is set a personal best of a 1:39.713. As we run ball with him, you can see a little train starting to follow there. He's going to try and tail Wano down that back straight, but hopefully not close enough to get in his slipstream and dirty air to a dangerous extent. How brave those drivers are going to be over the sausage curb, so that's going to make or break their lap times. And I'm sure these times we've seen at the top here from Seth and Happy T are the guys who are braving the sausage. Tom Williams finally sets his time of a 1:40.3, which I think is good enough for 10th, if I guess right, 9th. Okay, so he's good enough for 9th at the moment then. He's got a chance for maybe 2 more laps, I feel, in that McLaren. We've got 2 minutes left in the session. We see Wayner there, towing Rabbit behind him. Probably not where he wants him to be at the moment. But there's a healthy gap back to him, as there is to Brett and then Dioris behind him. So are they going to be giving each other any kind of benefit as they head on to their last 2 laps? Wayner will be hoping not, but there's a big train forming behind him. So, with just over a minute and a half left, our current grid order is Seth F1, half a second up on Happy T. There's another half a second up on Simo, but Simo is bearing down, not on, so half a second on Willie D, sorry. Simo's behind him, trying to use that slipstream for another fast time. Willie D has decided to scrap his start from the back strategy. He's going to try and take home 3rd place for qualifying. As all Seth gets very out of shape there, and he's tried to get off the track to stop impeding Willie D, but I'm not sure he's done that in enough time. Let's see if we can get a quick look at there. What happened to Seth? He must have got a little bit shaky, I think, coming out of that sweeping right-hander. And he's got a little bit too much speed in there, got in the gravel. And you see he's got a little bit out of shape, and I think he's really bumped. Yes, he has. He's really bumped Willie D by the time he's trying to pull off the track. It's unfortunate, but they do happen sometimes. Oh, evening, no hassle. Hope you're doing well. So Willie D will have a chance for 1 more flying lap. Brett has narrowed that gap down to only 1.5 tenths behind Willie D in 4th place. We'll see if we can get any more gains on that as he's got about another half a lap to go. Where's Halifax Howard tonight? I'm not too sure, I'm afraid, Alex. I think he has something extra to do. Dioris is still 5th, though, half a second down on Brett Requet, but only 0.02 up on Rabid down in 6th place. I think Rabid probably knows he hasn't got enough time for another lap, hence he's waiting in the pits. Oscar Zero, again, he's starting on his hard tyres, so he's about 2.75 tenths down on Rabid, but on the harder compound and that extremely light Alfa Romeo, I'm sure we'll see him go a fair way into this race on those hard tyres. Dare I say, even maybe 20 minutes on a single set of hards, if not the full half hour. Semo's trying to make some gains there in 8th place using Happy T's slipstream. We'll see what time he sets as he goes over the grid. I think they just ride on behind Simo as he takes his last 2 corners, this kind of half square tip of the track as they make their way onto the final straight there. Joe's improves his time for 1:39.3. I don't think that's gained him any places. They'll have to see as we do the final grid check. Simo's time puts him straight up into P3, 1:38.5. Cracking time from Simo there. He'll be very happy with that one. So Seth has called it a night on a 1:38 flat. It's a very, very good time from him on the soft tyres. So he wants to pull away. As does Happy T with a 1:38.2. And then Simo making it a Porsche 1:23 on his medium tyres. Only half a second off of Seth. So he's going to show him his pace tonight. Good job there from the grey and blue Porsche driver there. Willie's fastest time is a 1:39.0, good enough for 4th place. We've got Brett trundling around in 5th with a 1:39.2 is his fastest time. Joe is good enough for 6th and a 1:39.3. If I press 7, that'd be good. Rabbit is on I believe that we are 1:39.6, somewhere around there. Oscar is on a 1:39.9, so just creeping under that 1:40 barrier. Unfortunately, I don't think Tom Williams can do the same thing. No, he's on 1:40.3, so that's good enough for 9th place. Just behind him is our host Wayno with a 1:40.492. And at the back of the pack is Beardy on the hard tyres with a 1:40.7. So I believe that will be our running order for the race. Evening, Cray Chef. Hope you're doing well. And Alex, is nice to see Happy T. I've not raced with him before, but I have to take your word for it then that he's a top quality driver. We'll see where he puts his Porsche this evening. Place your bets down in the comments then. Who do you think is going to take this one home? I think just based on that extraordinary qualifying pace alone, my money will be on Simo. But Oscar Zero, I think, will again be a dark horse, but a very important one to watch as we see how he manages those tyres on the Alfa Romeo that will almost last forever from the Sergio Perez school of driving, it seems. So we're going to get our race underway in just a few moments. So if you are just joining now, we're about to get underway with the ART Gr.4 MR Challenge. We can see our drivers are lined up on the grid. We've got a Porsche three-way into the first corner, it seems. Who's going to be heading out of the first sector in first place? It's going to be a tight one as they get ready to start the race. Alex is going with Happy T. He's had a break from Racing General, but he's back and ready to win. So it's one vote for Happy T there. It seems that Seth has caused a jump start. That's awful for him. Unless, of course, maybe some of the drivers... we've had an issue on the grid, it seems. Maybe we're going to have another go at that one. For some reason, I can only see 3 people on the grid. What has happened there? Very strange. Let's see, perhaps they're going to try and back out of the track. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try and put on the screen there for Wayno the times if he can't see them all. But I don't know how we're going to do there. Actually, you know what I can do? Hang on. If I save a clip of 30 seconds. So Wayno, if you're watching the stream, if I put this on for you now. Oh no, that's not helped. Let's try that one again. Maybe that will do it instead. So you're probably hearing my voice again. That's really painful. There we go. So hopefully Wayno can set the grid from there if he's not doing so already. So as our drivers get ready to race again. One of the many glitches we'll have to see in Gran Turismo. Cray, I'm all good, Treek. It'll be nice to watch a race with no pimming or pedroing. I can't say I know who those guys are. But at ART, they do pride themselves on clean racing. And it's something that I love to commentate on, love to show to you guys on the internet. Unfortunately, this is a side of Gran Turismo that I'm not so keen on seeing. The glitches and the mishaps and the general screw-ups that aren't in our control. But, you know, it's only been out for about 4 years, guys. You know, you think you could have done something by now, right? So, hopefully, that will all be fixed now. So I think I'll join you guys when the race is up and going again. Best of luck to you, lays. I think I saw some comment there saying from J-Lad, Happy did great in the rookies race. I get the feeling that maybe Happy wasn't meant to be in the rookie race. But I can't make any judgments there, I can only assume. Oh, Wayno says a couple people's games crashed, so they'll be up and running shortly. This is another thing we love to see with Gran Turismo. It's such a extraordinarily exciting, complex and engaging game that your PlayStations just can't cope, especially the ones that haven't been cleaned out since you bought them and have probably got cockroaches, dust and COVID-21 sat in the back of them. So if you're watching at home, you're not currently playing, and you've got a chance and you've got a set of security screwdrivers, which aren't easy to come by, it might be a good idea to get behind it and give it a bit of a dust bust or something, or some canned air will go through it nicely. Because I'm sure we've all tried firing up Gran Turismo or Call of Duty. I think it's one of the worst ones. You turn the console on and it sounds like you're about to take off in a plane. It's not exactly the comforting sound of, say, a Subaru Turbo Spool. It's just more the sound of I think a Apollo 13 preparing for takeoff. And I don't remember them advertising that when I bought the console. Anyways, what do you got there? Yes, Cray. Wouldn't be Gran Turismo with no glitches. Yeah, I think it's safe to say they have made themselves at home with glitches. You know, it's like that one friend you've got that sends you that message. You know, hey, how you doing? Even though you haven't talked to him in a couple of years, he's always there in the corner of your ear. IT expert SuperSquid. It's definitely not me, but more so my brother, who's hooked me up with all the tools and bits and bobs to clean out my PlayStation. So. James, on your chance that you're listening, thanks for your help, mate. Really do appreciate it. Yeah, it's a real pain, actually, if you want to try and clean out your PlayStation. Because they've not made it easy to get in there. You've got to peel off all the warranty stickers, all that rubbish. And you've got to get a special set of screwdrivers to get in. You can't just hack away with it with some old ones you bought out of B&Q. And of course, if you don't pull this thing out the right way, you might blow the circuitry apart. And if you don't do this the right way, you might end up tangling all the wires up. So it can be a bit of a faff. Alex, you just hoovered it. I see. That's I mean, each their own. It's I definitely didn't see any kind of Dysons or anything like that in the tutorials that I watched on YouTube. But if it works and you're still with us, then I can only celebrate that. No problem at all. I also hope your family aren't watching this one and being disappointed again by myself trying to find excuses. As another person disappears from the channel. That's probably your dad, who's had enough of me waffling about this. Do you want to see some racing? But it looks like we are going to see some racing, finally, as the lobby is ready to go. Let's try this one again, shall we? So, hopefully now, if we pray to Kazunori Yamauchi and the gods of Gran Turismo and Polyphony Digital, that we'll start a race with no crashing, apart from maybe some slidey drivers, but you can't help those kind of crashes, really. So we see a very dominated, McLaren-dominated grid there. But hopefully everyone's going to make the start. Alex says good luck to everybody. So hopefully this will bring everybody a little bit more luck today. So we got a couple red lights going on there. And it's green, it's go. Someone's not had a very good start there in the Porsche. They're not known for the quick starts, but Brett has made a fantastic start. They're already taking 5th place, or 4th place from Simo. He's got Weedy on the inside though. He's going to be a little bit tricky. He's a head down into turn 1. But they all kept it clean through that first corner. How is it going to be through the chicane? This is where things might get a little bit dicey. You can see Simo's been kept to the outside by Brett, who takes a very aggressive line across the chicane there, and again over the sausage curve. But he has kept it in one piece this time. I can't see the map. We've got any spin outs at the back, so it's like everyone's made it through that complex in one piece. We love to see that. So our running order is, maybe as we have a look on board from the back, we've got Seth F1, followed by Happy T, Willie D, Brett, Simo, who's trying not to spin again. He's now got Diovis on his tail instead. I think we've got someone going saying, let's go Diovis. My Slovenian's not very good, but I hope so. We then got Oscar lurking in the background there in 7th place. Rabbit trying to fend off Tom Williams, 8th and 9th respectively. We've got Wayno in 10th, Beardy in 11th, and Lays bringing up the rear for the time being in 12th place. So let's take it back on board at the front of the pack with Seth F1. You can see he's got Happy T only 2 tenths behind him. Is he going to try and make a move into the last corner? I don't think I would, because we better do it down the back straight, or down the home straight, with that slipstream. Craig saying he bathes his PlayStation in a tornado. Well, I wouldn't say it's the best thing to do, but I think if you're looking for the perfect storm, Craig, it's going to be tonight's event. As they get a little bit wide out of the last corner, we can see that Seth has made the most of a better exit to extend his lead to about 4 tenths, but it will close in as Happy T makes slipstream. Willie D, though, did not care about the slipstream at all. He's going to try and get the inside of Happy T, but he's going to break early. Happy T's run quite wide. Is Willie D going to give him the space on the exit of that corner? I think he will, just about. So he's still 3rd place for the time being. That fight's going to let Brett Raquette into the fold, though. So we've still got roughly a 3-way fight for 2nd place as Seth starts to pull away on those soft tyres. You see Brett, though, he's hit that sausage pretty hard this time and gone very wide. And he's gone for a spin. Poor Brett. Not his race, and rear damage as well. We'll see if we can get a shot of that in a couple of moments. But he's gone all the way to the back of the pack. Poor guy. What has happened there to Brett? Let's have a look. He's clipped the sausage curb, he's put his foot down, lift off again, and he's tried to accelerate on the dirt and lost control of that McLaren. We can see that Simo's gone past him. Fortunately, he's not hit anyone except the wall, but he's lost all of those places, and his whole work in qualifying is now completely for nothing at the very back of the pack. Will this change his strategy? We'll have to keep track of him as we go on. Seth, meanwhile, will be very glad now. It's one less person to worry about as he opens up his lead over Happy T to almost 7 tenths of a second now. But Happy T's taken a much better set of corners there, reducing that gap by another 2 tenths and closing. He's still got Willie D in that ferociously fast McLaren to worry about, though. So while he's lost some time to him in that hexagon section in the middle, I'm sure we'll be seeing him claw that time back down at the main straight. Goodness me, poor Brett. He's not had a good time of it recently. Maybe it's about developing the consistency of his driving, perhaps. That will help him in the future. We haven't got many more rounds of this, though. This is round 5, but there's only one more left. So we got Seth setting the pace with a purple time there of 1:38.2. So they're already trying to dip into their qualifying times. We love to see these guys pushing hard from the outset. So we still got Willie D round off that fight for the lead. Simo's 2 and a bit seconds back in 4th place, but about the same distance to Tom Williams down in 5th place. He's then got a train format behind him of Diovis, Oscar, Rabid, and Beardy McBeard. So let's have a look at this from Beardy's point of view. We can see Oscar getting right up onto the back of Diovis there. So he may be running ball for Rabid instead. Is Oscar going to go for a move into the handling sector of the track where his car will be favouring? No, I don't think so. But it looks like... who is that? Tom Williams has gone very wide there. Joey's looking to capitalise, but no can do for the time being. I think this is where we'll see Oscar's Alfa Romeo, the lightest car on the track as far as I'm aware, using its much better handling to try and catch up onto the back of these McLarens. However, it will lose in terms of power as they head down the hill and back up it towards the final corners. And he's also lost some time there to ART Rabbit, possibly with a poor exit out of Sector 2. Let's see how he's doing there. He's going to have a speed deficit as they head up the hill. We can see already if we ride on board with Rabbit in the slipstream. Will he make a move now and try and escape from the Alpha? I don't think so. I think it's to try and bump him up the hill and then take him as he comes back down over the finish line. Smart driving there from ART Rabbit. This is still allowing Beardy McBeard into the fold, though. He's only half a second behind. As I check the comments, Pig would rate the spin a 2 out of 10. It's not a full 360 and he hit the barrier. Brett, please try harder. Don't follow that advice, Brett. Please just keep it on the track. Brad, how do you rate the pit lane out of 10? Well, what we'll do then, Brad, we'll jump into the pits when someone comes in, and I'll give No Hassle a full close-up of the pits. He can rate them as he likes. We know he's a big fan of the pits. Well, it's not exactly the candy shop, but he definitely loves to see the lollipop. So, with 5 minutes down, we're looking at Seth F1 leading by 6 tenths of a second to Happy T. Now, 8 tenths, he gets a fantastic run, almost a second now. We've got Happy T in second there. Willie D back the shot in third. Simo's picked up a 0.2 second penalty down in fourth place. Now we've got a train forming up there of Tom Williams, De Jovis, Oscar Zero, who's still fending off Rabbit and Beardy McBeard now. And then a three train at the back of, I believe that was Wayno, Lace and Brett. But we can see this train here forming up with Beardy McBeard. So we got there the green McLaren driver down in ninth place. But on the hard tyres, I'm sure he's not looking to make any rash moves for the time being. He wants to go as long as he can on the hardest compound available to him and speed up as his car gets lighter. He's a little bit shaky though, going through that quadruple apex. So he's got to be careful not to take too much life out of those tyres while he's still got them. Let's see, Rabbit is still right up behind Oscar. And this is only costing him time on the medium tyres as well. Oscar gets a little bit of a better exit, having run wide initially out of the last corner. And Rabbit will have to use that slipstream to catch up as quick as he can. We know the slipstream is about 7.5, 8 tenths. And he's definitely within that time now, but he needs to keep with him in these power sections of the track, sectors 1 and 3. See, Oscar seems to also run a little bit wide there out of the first corner. It's a very light car, that Alfa Romeo, but it means that he should be keeping it on the track easier than most of his competitors tonight. So let's see how things are developing at the front instead. It's runnable with Happy T. He's lost now a second to Seth. So he's gained about maybe 2 tenths since we saw them at this point last time. And he's also gained another second or so to Willie D, it seems, down in third place. So the Porsche seems to be enjoying the handling aspects of this track, particularly that middle sector, as would the Alfa Romeo. Of course, you'd hope that many of these cars being mid-engined would be a little bit more interesting in the corners, a bit more practical, a little bit more balanced. But of course, the McLaren being the most powerful of them all has to be weighed down just that little bit more. So as such, we can see that he's almost 3 seconds now down on Happy T in the McLaren there. Simo though is also losing a little bit of time in that power section there, down in fourth place. But I'm sure we'll see him claw some of that time back as we get into the twisties. We've then got Tom Williams in fifth, 1.5 up on Diovis, who's 1.2 up on Oscar Zero. We can still see he's got Rabbit and Beardy just behind him there. But it seems that Oscar's kept a pretty cool head so far. He's going to let those cars behind him get to him. As we compare their tyre wear, you can see that Oscar's hard tyres are looking in very good nick compared to, I was going to say compared to Rabbit's mediums, but actually he's doing just as well on the medium tyres. So if Rabbit's going to make those mediums last as long as Oscar's hard tyres, we might see them both do a similar stint, and ultimately I'm sure we'll see Rabbit jumping maybe on a harder compound perhaps. Beardy's hard tyres also looking completely fine. We can see that Brett, having had that spin at the start of the race, has pushed his medium tyres a little bit harder. You can see there he's really getting brave with that sausage curve, putting it straight under the bottom of his car to cut that corner as much as he legally can. Fortunately, there's no under-trade damage in Gran Turismo Sport, but if there were, I'm sure we'd be seeing some sparks flying, maybe a couple of complaints from the team boss. As he looks up the inside of Beard, is there a little shunt there? I'm not too sure, but I don't think he's quite got the traction to push past Beardy out of the hairpin there. So we're now 10 minutes in. Our running order is Seth F1 at the front, who's now 1.9, if not 2 seconds now, ahead of Happy T. Oops, let's get rid of that. But on the soft tyres, I'm sure we'll be seeing them hit the cliff very, very soon. Happy T in second place with a 0.2 second penalty, presumably for track limits. Again, on the soft tyres, pulled away from Willie D by 3.7 seconds. But you see those tyres are starting to give a bit as he runs very wide out of the second to last corner. Willie D's now 4 seconds behind, but will close that back up as they head down the straight, provided he keeps it on the track. Simo, meanwhile, with a better run, is catching him now in fourth place. Now rounding that last corner, we've got the rest of our pack here. Tom Williams in fifth, Diovis in sixth, Rabbit in seventh, who has taken Oscar Zero, but looks like Oscar might be planning another pass into this sector. He's right on his tail. Let's see if we can get on board the bumper cam there. He's had to slow down a little bit as Rabbit hits the brakes, but is Oscar going to try and make a move into the chicane, or might perhaps wait for the hairpin? We'll have to see. So he's going to give him the space for time being, maybe try and pressure him into a mistake rather than attempt a crazy move. Of course, probably wouldn't be the best time for Oscar Zero to go for the hero move unless it's in the dying embers of the race, but he knows from last week's events that he can play the long game and let the race fall into his hands instead. So it looks like he's going to let Rabbit go for the time being. Brett, though, is getting right onto the back of him, as is Beard onto Brett himself, both of them running a little wide there. So Oscar maybe having to check his rear mirrors more than at the front now. So it's like the drivers are now starting to find their pace, and they're now going to start thinking long term about managing their tyres, managing their fuel. And I'm sure we've seen the first round of pit stops to say within the next 5 to 10 laps. I think we'll start seeing the pit stops. So again, put your comment in, or put your comment in the comments. Drop us a comment. Who do you think is going to be in with a chance for this race? So far, we see Seth is making a very dominant performance there, as Simo looks like he makes his way around Willie D. But of course, that McLaren is going to try and fight back down the straight. I think Simo will be one to watch as he tries to get off the medium tyres. Willie's going to bump him along instead then. Looks like he's happy to keep 4th place and just let the both of them catch up to those front 2 Porsches. Let's have a look at Simo as he makes that move then. So you can see there, Willie D, he brakes and he's a little bit wide there going into the second to last corner, opening the door for Simo, who walks straight through it and onto the start-finish straight. Very opportunistic driving there from young driver there, Simo. However, he does get a little bit out of shape there on the sausage curb, allowing Willie D to catch back up. Let's see, is he going to go for an overtake? He's looking around the outside, maybe trying to get Simo to cover the outside, but he puts his car in the middle of the track. Very sensible drive in there. It looks like instead he'll have to wait for a better moment there, the McLaren driver. But of course, this fighting is probably going to start costing them time in the long term to Seth and Happy T, who have set their own pace at the front on the soft tyres. Of course, though, we see Seth with a 3.6 second gap back to Happy T, showing him how it's done in the MR Challenge. So it looks like Happy T will have to put his foot down, see if he wants anything else to come out of this race, unless of course he's going to play a much longer game. Looks like Seth is going to go all out from the very beginning. So if we jump back and see how the rest of that train is getting on, we can see there Tom Williams just ahead of Diovis in 6th place there. As we look back, we've then got Diovis, who's pulled out a 2.5 seconds on ART Rabid. Looks like Beardy is ahead there, as is Brett as well. So it's like Oscar's possibly had an off. I'll see if I can find what's happened to Oscar. Let's have a look. What has happened to him? I don't think I've gone back 5, so maybe he's had an accident. I think I've probably missed that one. Not very good from me. But I'm sure Oscar won't be too worried, knowing that he's got probably the best car on the grid for managing its tyres. Speaking of tyres, as Happy T gets into the pits. Alex, if you're watching, here's the pit lane. And there is the pit lane. I hope you liked what you saw there. Sorry about that. But next time someone comes in, I'll give you a little bit longer and you can give us a full detailed review of the car resource facilities. So, of course, this puts Simo up into P2, but you've got a huge fight going on here at the back of the pack. I think if we run on board from behind Happy T, as he looks to make his way through the traffic now on a set of medium tyres. So it looks like he'll maybe try and take these up until maybe about a quarter tank, if not the rest of it. Looks like he's going to make that move on Oscar Zero on the fresher set of tyres. I'm sure this is an easy move for him. And I believe it will be, possibly. Will he take Brett as well on the exit? No, I don't think so, but he's been held up there by Beardy McBeard, allowing Oscar Zero to come back along the outside. I think Oscar will have to tuck in though as they get into a trickier part of the circuit. Alex saying it's not the quality he expects of the pit lane. Sorry, well, hopefully the quality of the racing will make up for the quality of the pit lane, as ART Happy T gets very slidey there out of that sweeping right hand, allowing Oscar Zero up the inside, but he's got to hold it there for 3 more corners. Is Happy T going to push around the outside? Looks like he is. Oscar getting a little bit shaky there, and Happy T keeps that place. Excellent driving there as we see Seth jump into the pits. So let's have a look there. You see the pit lane here, Alex. Nice wonderful view there of the pit lane as Seth, as Simo takes lead of the race. It's very colourful. Looks like the garages are very wide. You've got the lovely landscape in the background. I think it's quite pretty, but I'd love to see what you think of them all. Meanwhile, we'll have a look at that battle we had just gone before there with Oscar Zero and Happy T. So we can see that Oscar puts up the inside, but Happy T with more grip and a better tyre wear on his medium tyres just goes straight around the outside and slingshots himself right up behind Beardy McBeard as well. We can see though they're still going hammer and nail as they battle for those last few places there. We've got, I think it's battled down from 6th to 8th there. Very exciting going on there, but we'll wait for that to develop as we jump back to the front of the race. Simo then, with 45 minutes remaining, our first quarter of the race is gone. He's 2 seconds ahead of Willie D. We can see that that front right tyre is definitely not having a good time. Of course, that sweeping right left hand at the start of the race. We've then got that tight hairpin down the bottom of the track map in the top right, and those 2 square corners at the second last and last respectively. We'll be dragging that car across the tarmac and ruining those right side tyres. So I think Bueno was on the money. This is definitely something that's going to slash everybody's tyres today, and it'll be managing those tyres very carefully. We've got Tom down in 3rd place, running a very consistent race it seems. He'll be happy. Tom seems to be a very consistent driver generally. He doesn't go for many bold moves, but I think he prefers to try and make his progress on strategy rather than outright pace on the track, as Willie D comes in to ditch his medium tyres. We've got a bit of fight bring here, as Diovis makes a very late exit for the pit lane. I think knowing he's about to be overtaken by I think it's LT Rabbit, decided that he'd had enough of that fight. So Rabbit's going to be put up into 3rd place. Happy T, though, having made his pit stop, he's already up into 4th place. Fantastic from Happy T, and I believe we'll see him make an easy undercut for the lead once Simo, Tom and Rabbit make their stop. So has Happy T put on a top strategy here? As see, as Seth made his pit stop, he came out the medium tyres. He's getting very slidey through as well, giving that time away to Oscar Zero. So perhaps he's maybe entered that chicane a little bit too aggressively. Now he's got Wayno up behind him and Lays behind him as well. So to see who's going to make it through there. Wayno makes it on the inside, but he won't have the fresher tyres that Seth will. Lays looking to go around the outside, getting up a bit of dirt in the on the screen as well. Seth's going to keep to the inside. He's going to go around the outside this time. He is. Is Lays going to follow him through? No, not this time. We'll have to see there what happened to Seth. So as he heads through, so he got off the grass there and then couldn't get the Porsche to change direction for that right hand kink in the chicane, and getting very out of shape, causing Wayno and Lays to bunch up right behind him. So we've got their battle still going on there between Wayno and Seth. Seth's going to go all the way around the outside. Is he at the quad right-hander? Looks like he is, so he's seen the Happy T playbook, and he's going to have one of those for himself as well. As we see, I believe that Tom Williams and ART Rabbit further up the order have changed places as well. So Tom up into 2nd place now, but coming around those last 2 corners, is it time for him to make his pit stop? We'll have to see. So he's going to keep going for another lap at least for the time being, as is Rabbit. But you can see though, on those worn tyres, they're now losing time to Happy T, who's bearing down on them at the back of the frame there. Beardy's keeping his pace consistent though. You can see there a string of 141s, even the odd 140 as well, in 5th place. Oscar Zero though on a fairly good looking set of hard tyres, although a bit wide there in 6th place. We'll say that as he gets probably down to 7th place, with Seth taking up the inside. Hope to be a bit more careful this time, Seth, and he will indeed. So he's kept it in one piece this time, good to see. And behind them, still battling there, are Lays and Wayno for 8th place respectively. Maybe we'll run a ball with Wayno as he gets into Lays' slipstream. I think he's probably a little bit too far back for a move, unless he's extremely bold and there's a mistake from the Dane. Let's say to look up the inside anyway. Lays leaving the space. Wayne gets a little bit slidey, and he doesn't quite make that one stick, so maybe braking and turning has cost him more time than it was worth there. Not the best attempt there from our host of the evening, but I'm sure we'll see him have another crack at that one as the race unfolds. At the back there, we've got Willie D down in 10th place on a fresh set of hard tyres and an almost full tank of fuel, so I'm sure we'll see an extremely long stint from him trying to outlive the others on his race strategy. Joe's at the back there with a similar theme, new set of hard tyres and about 3/4 tank of fuel, and Brett at the back, who's filled up the car with a set of soft tyres. So we'll see his tyres die pretty quickly with a heavy car, but as he's already going purple with 3/10 off the current fastest lap, he's definitely pushing to make some inroads on the leaders while he can after that unfortunate spin at the start. So we are a third of the way into our 1 hour race here, the ART Gr.4 MR Challenge. Our current race leader is Simo, 10.5 seconds now ahead of Happy T, who was the first driver to pit, but on a fresh set of medium tyres will easily claw that 10-second gap back up to Simo once the former makes his pit stop. He's He's about 2 seconds ahead now of ART Rabbit, who is yet to make his stop, as is Tom Williams behind him in 4th place. Same can also be said for Beardy McBeard in 5th place, who's on a new set of hard tyres, but will probably be going a significant amount longer than the two in front of him. As he makes a brave move out the inside of Tom Williams, he's going to make that one stick. It looks like he is, and Seth, who's just come out of the pits on a new set of tyres, is going to profit from that as well, putting him up into 5th place. Opportunistic driving there from the Aussie. Good job from him. Puts Tom Williams down into 6th, so maybe it's time for Tom to peel off into the pits. He's definitely losing time to the guys that have already stopped now. The last place he wants to be is in traffic with the guys fighting at the back. He's also running very wide there out of that left-hand kink, so I think he knows his tyres are best past, or definitely past their best by date. Nevertheless, he's still 4.5 seconds ahead of Lay's 1-star on the hard-tired McLaren, who's made that move on... Oh, she didn't make the move on Wayne. Wayne made the move on him and it didn't quite work, so he's down 1.5 seconds now. And at the back we've got there Willie D kicking up some dust into the windscreen of Oscar Zero in 10th place. And then we have Brett and Diovis rounding off our running order. So we've seen some fantastic racing tonight. As you see Rabid pull off into the pits there, promoting Beardy up into 4th, Tom 5th, Lace into 6th. We've seen some fantastic racing so far this evening. If you want to get involved, the link to our Discord is in the description below, as well as the link to our website where you can keep track of all the leagues on offer and their standings, which has been newly revamped and redesigned to be much easier on the eyes than it was previously. One thing also worth mentioning is we've had a recent photo competition, Photo of the Month. Our winner for that was Wayno down here in 7th place with a wonderful shot of his Group 3 McLaren, I believe. Lay's 1-star was one of the runners-up, and I came 3rd, which was nice. But I'll try and put a stronger entry in for this month. Don't worry about that then, boys. So let's have a look just slightly further up the road, as I believe maybe Beardy and Tom are still trying to go at it. They are indeed. Of course, Beardy in the McLaren, Tom in the Honda. I believe he's only one of 2 drivers, I think, in the Honda, with the other one, I believe, being Diovis. If I double check, I think he's in the Honda, I can't quite remember. Joe's in the McLaren now, so what's that? He will be our only driver in the Honda, yes. So our only representative of Japan in the event today, but of course representing the UK as a driver. So we can see there he's losing time to Beardy McBeard. His wise medium tyres are a softer compound, obviously should have more inert grip, or more innate grip, sorry. The fact that they're so worn compared to Beardy's hard tyres means that he's losing time in corners in the traction zones, and he needs really to peel off as soon as he can to put on a more suitable set of tyres. Although it looks like if he's going to try and go a couple more minutes into the race, maybe at least one more lap, I'm sure he might consider going for a soft set of tyres and a small top up on fuel to keep the car light but grippy into his next stint of the race. So let's have a look at Happy T, the first driver on the grid to pit. Since we last looked at him and Simo, he's pulled in 3 seconds to the Brit at the front there. While he's still down on his personal best lap, he'll still be making inroads on Simo as he's on an extremely worn set of medium tyres. And now only 6.5 seconds down to Simo as he makes his way out of the hairpin. I'm sure we'll see Simo tumble all the way down the running order, way behind Happy T and Seth, who made their stops nice and early. But of course Simo might have to be looking at this as, will this plan into his strategy later in the race, where he'd probably be able to outpace them and make some places through the grid, if not on the pit stops. Of course, with the 4 tyre compounds on offer tonight, the hards, mediums, softs and super softs, there's an absolute plethora of strategies available to our drivers. And this is normally the point where Roadrunner Dan will pop up in the comments box saying that he's been watching someone I've not kept an eye on for the past 20 minutes, and that they're going to be the winners because they already pitted onto a certain compound. But he's not with us tonight, which is a shame. So what we'll do, I think, for the time being, I'm going to get a quick drink while we sit on board with Simo and see where his pit stop drops him as he leaves the lane. So as Simo leaves the pits, he's gone on to hard tyres and an almost full tank of fuel. So this might well be Simo to the end of the race, if not very close to the end, followed by a short blast on the super soft tyres. Interesting strategy there from him, as we saw Happy T jump onto the medium tyres instead. So he may well have one more stop to make, unless he can keep those mediums in one piece for another 33 minutes. But looking at the state of that front right tyre and the rear right tyre already, I very much doubt he's going to be keeping pace with the rest of the field come the last 5-10 minutes of the race if he keeps those medium tyres on. Especially with that amount of fuel as well, he will have to come in soon just for fuel, let alone tyres. So Simo could be one to watch as he's playing an extremely long game here. Just adrift there of Happy T is Seth, who's on a very similar tyre wear there in the bottom left corner, but with much more fuel. So we'll see him go past Happy T as he makes his stop for fuel. Beardy McBeard will probably be coming in soon for fuel as well. But as Wayno said, the McLaren, if driven at full pelt, can go for about half an hour without having to refuel. So I'm sure Beardy knows he's got a little bit more time left in the race, a little bit more fuel left in the tank to really push before he needs to come in for his next set of tyres. Tom Williams comes into the pits then to get rid of his mediums, as does Lays wants to get rid of his hards. That puts Brett and Willie D up into 4th and 5th. Brett, meanwhile, is looking for a move around Willie D. So he's gone very tight to the inside there. Willie D's left in the space. And that looks like a clean pass from the Belgians. Have another look at that one again. So in the slipstream, pulls alongside, and Willie D very kindly gives him the space. Willie D there on the hard tyres, so probably didn't have the grip to really deal with Brett in that situation anyway. But I'm sure we'll be looking to slipstream him up the hill. Probably not look for an overtaking move at the moment, but at least to keep with him and let the slipstream tow him along back into the grasp of those in front. You can see that he's lifting off race, so he's clearly got no intention at the moment of passing the Belgian. But it's instead looking to use his pace to get him further up the track. Of course, on the harder tyres, he's not going to have the grip through the corners, and that is where Brett will make those gains. But I would assume that in the traction zones, where he has a much more tyre life left, especially in the rears, is where he'll use the power of that McLaren to keep in the slipstream of the green one and make his advances through the field that way instead. So we can see there Simo down 4.5 seconds on Willie D, but of course on that hard tyres and almost full tank of fuel, this may well be Simo to the end. He's got Wayno behind him in that McLaren. Not what you want to see when you know it's a faster car in a straight line and it's in your slipstream, only adding to that speed difference there. However, with just under a quarter tank of fuel, I guess maybe about 20% left of fuel, I'm sure we'll see Wayno peeled off into the pits within the next couple of laps to to carry on for his second stint. I'm sure he'll be looking to possibly take on the mediums for the other half of this race and avoid making another pit stop. As we've seen, the pit stops take an excruciating amount of time. As we get on board with Brett, I believe he's probably in the pits about 15 to 20 seconds just for his tyres. Adding on his fuel as well is only going to compound the length of his stop, and that's probably going to put him out in about 10th place. And there he is, 10th place there. But fortunately for him, with a full tank of fuel and fresh set of hard tyres in clean air, this should also be him to the end of the race. So he and Simo will probably be the ones to watch as the rest of the field make their stops and try and organise themselves after the pits. So halfway now into the event, our racer is Happy T on a worn set of medium tyres and very low fuel. He's being dogged around that hexagon section there by Seth. So I'm sure we'll see those two push each other a little bit further along until those stops are made. We've then got Beardy McBeard in, oops, sorry, that's number 4, in 3rd place. He's about 11.5 seconds off of that battle. We've got Willie D in 4th place there. Simo 3.5 seconds down in 5th, but another 3.5 ahead of Wayno. As we see, Seth, it looks like he's made that slipstream pass on Happy T. We have there Wayno in 6th and Diovis in 7th place. Oscar Zero is 8 seconds off of their fight, down in 8th place. Rabbit is 3 and a bit seconds down from Oscar in 9th place, and just ahead of Brett, who's just come out of the pits, in 10th place on his fresh set of hard tyres. And lastly at the back we had Lays, who was 12th but is now 11th, battling with Tom Williams. We see Lays getting a little bit slidey out of that corner, allowing Tom Williams to come past in the Honda, but I'm sure we'll see Lays use the slipstream of that McLaren to try and nudge past him into the left-hand corner. He's going to go for a move. Not for the moment, but he does take a very good apex there. He should be flat now, widening in that corner as he aims for the left hand into this 3-part chicane of turn 2, 3 and 4. So he's gone for a slightly less aggressive left hand to tighten that right hand out. He's definitely made a gain through there, and he's right back now of Tom Williams. Is he going to go past him before they hit the hairpin? Let's have a look as they're side by side. Looks like he's just about going to make that one stick. They're going to be door banging on their way down into the hairpin. Who's going to break first? Lays will break first, but on the inside line, Tom will have to concede that. Is there, however, space for a cutback? Not for the time being. Excellent driving by the day. Let's have a look at that one again. So he takes that right hander very aggressively, cuts over the sausage curb and makes a clean line through that final left-hand turn as well. Draws level with Tom Williams well before the hairpin and uses the grunt of that McLaren just to push past. A slight bit of contact, but not enough to re-disrupt their racing, and he takes 11th place off of him there. Great driving by the pair of them. That's what we love to see at ART. Let's have more with Seth though, as he gets very jumpy over that sausage curb there. We can see Happy in the background preferring to give it a wider berth. 3.1, 3.2 now ahead of Happy T with a half a tank of fuel, so I'm sure Seth has got one more stop to make, but will be in a much better stead to do it. We'll be saving some time in the pits, whereas Happy T has gone very aggressive. We can see his fuel is now blinking red, so he's dangerously low to running out of fuel, and he may only have 1 or 2 more laps left in the tank, but I'm sure he'll also use that as an opportunity to ditch those medium tyres. May well do what we saw Simo do, fill up the car, put a hard set of tyres on and go until the very end, which may well give him the jump over Seth when it gets into the dying embers of the race. ART Happy T though is still 13 seconds up on Willie D, down in 3rd. There's about half a tank of fuel and a set of hard tyres on, so he'll be losing a little bit of time through this slippery section of the track. But of course I'm sure we'll see that time made up as Happy T comes into the pits shortly. He's losing time, however, to Simo in 4th place on his brand new set of hard tyres, and he's been hoping to be pulling away from Diovis down in 5th place in his McLaren. The only Slovenian on the grid, I believe he did have a compatriot a couple of races ago, but he's nowhere to be seen today. But let's hope that Diovis maybe finds himself at home in the Slavic foothills here at Dragon Trail in Croatia. It's not exactly the same country, of course, but I'd much rather be over there than at a raining, miserable Brands Hatch or Silverstone any day. We see Oscar Zero gets up into 6th place as Wayno now drops into the pits. This will then push up Brett and Rabbit into 7th and 8th respectively, and he may well be pipped by Lays as he comes out the pits as well. Let's see, Lays is just going to be near him, I think. Looks like he's going to make that gap as well. So Wayne's going to be in pits for a very long time here, it seems, as Beardy and Tom look like they're about to get into a fight as well. Wayno's gone to the super soft tyres with just under half a tank of fuel, so I'm not sure if this is going to last him unless he decides to ditch the super softs, put on a set of softs at the end and decide not to refuel. It's going to be a very brave strategy there from Wayno. It looks like he wants to get back onto the tails of these guys as quick as he can. Meanwhile, further up the pack, let's have a look there. Is that no, it's probably these two up in head then. So it's Simo, who's now gained another few tenths on Willie Dean. He's about to enter that crucial slipstream range here as we get into the final 25 minutes of our race. So let's have a look. As we ride on board with Simo, you can see that gap is increasing very slightly, but not as dramatically as it would do if he were not in the slipstream. You see Happy T now putting into the pits. This is where Simo's going to be happy, knowing he's made that jump on Happy T. Let's see though what his strategy is as he comes out the pits. We'll keep an eye on him, having pitted from 2nd place on that medium tyre with only 2% fuel, so he was running it right down to the dregs there to make sure his in-lap was a hot one. You see Simo still within that 6/10 win, now 5/10, getting into 4/10. He's just got a little bit more grip, I feel, through that first hander. Is he going to be aggressive through this triple chicane? Is he going to be a little bit more conservative and try and make that overtake on the straight? To part 1, part 2, is he going to jump that sergeant turn 3? He is indeed, but he's kept it level and he's now reduced that gap to just 3/10. But we see the McLaren, I think, had a slightly better exit, starting to pull away from Simo. He's now lost another 2/10 just on the straight alone, so there's no chance for a move here. Meanwhile, we look back at Happy T's come out of the pits in 6th place on a set of hard tyres and about 3/4 tank of fuel, so he'll definitely be going to the end on this one. But I feel he's already lost too much time to Simo. We'll have to see how those two get on towards the end of the race as Oscar Diovis' strategies pan out in between them. As we see, as we mentioned that actually, Oscar looks like he's just been overtaken there by Diovis, so they go side by side into this middle sector. Is Oscar going to try and get back at him? No, but he's getting very slightly there instead. Of course, Oscar maybe having to manage that lightness of the Alfa Romeo as it's so eager to change direction. It gets a little bit sliding. We saw plenty of that last week at BB Raceway. Very entertaining to watch, but not very good for his tyres. The Alfa Romeo still, it's like, drives like a scolded rat. He's just slithering all the way behind Diovis' McLaren, trying to get in his brain, get in his mind, in his rearview mirror, try and cause a mistake as they head into these last two corners. But I don't think Diovis is going to bite that bait. He's going to hold off the Alfa Romeo as they head down the main straight. See Oscar again getting very out of shape there. I have to see what happened to Oscar as they were going through that corner. So we see Diovis there. He's still in 4th place. Oscar's like he's trying to make a move on the inside of Diovis, and he has that place initially, but it just doesn't have the traction and the power out of that corner. Diovis just flies past him like he isn't even there. So it looks like Oscar then will have to work on finding a more opportune place to do it, and he's going to go for it here, looks like, at the chicane. A very brave move from Oscar Zero, but he has run wide. Will he keep that place? He will for the time being, but now that as we get on board with Diovis, will he use the power of the McLaren and the slipstream to take that place straight back through him, like candy from a baby, down that back straight? We'll have to look. He's looking at the inside. Oscar's left that space for him, but the lighter Alpha is later on the brakes. He's run a little bit wide though, and Diovis can use all that rumble strip to narrow that gap, but he just hasn't got that traction, and it's a fantastically brave move there by Oscar Zero. You wouldn't have thought it possible. It's almost a dive bomb, a lunge, as it were. But very brave from him. Let's see if we can get a shot of that one again, possibly. So, as we run on board with Oscar Zero, we see he's got a good run out of turn 1. Diovis is braking maybe a little bit too early for Oscar's liking. He heads up the inside. Diovis does leave him the space, but he carries that momentum around the outside as well. And then for good measure, goes straight over the sausage curve. And Diovis is going to be ruining that, but hopefully he'll have a chance to take that place back on the next lap. We also see Oscar's fuel is starting to dip into that dangerous red level. So maybe 1 or 2 more laps left before he has to come into the pits for sure. We see there Willie D pitting in off of the hard tyres and 30% fuel. So I have to say, I would assume he might come out on a safer option, possibly like the medium tyres. Or there were 20 minutes remaining, it might worth be a gamble for the soft tyres as well. So it's like Oscar now extending that gap over Diovis on the medium tyre. So he's also been passed there by Happy T. A very big move at the inside there. He's going to make that place stick as well. So Diovis is just heading backwards now. What happened there is we run on board with Happy T. So Diovis, he's just run wide. Diovis has just run wide at turn 1 and given that door open to Happy T, who just walks straight through it, shut it behind him. He's not going to be looking back at him anymore, hopefully. We see the blue flags being waved there as well, so someone's slow on the track. Hopefully they're not waving that to Diovis. That's a little bit mean. But it looks like Diovis should be coming in soon to get rid of those hard tyres, because clearly they're far too worn to be practical anymore. We see his lap times on the right there floating around the high 141s and into the 42s and 3s even with the traffic he's encountered. So it might be best he now gets out of this traffic, tries a different strategy, and finishes this last third of the race strong rather than falling prey to the other drivers on the track. So with 20 minutes to go, we'll have a look at our running order. We currently have Seth F1 in the lead on a very worn set of medium tyres and about a quarter tank of fuel. I'm not too sure either of those is going to take him to the end of the race comfortably as he runs dangerously wide out of turn 1. So you have to see what he's got in the bag. He's definitely not got a pit stop ahead of Simo though, who we know is going to go to the end on his hard tyres and a half tank of fuel. So unless Seth has an absolute blind of a strategy and Simo has a calamitous mistake, I think this may all be Simo's race for the taking. Happy T meanwhile will be chasing him down as soon as he can in 3rd place on a similar strategy to Simo, having pulled it off a few laps later, his pit stop. But I will have to see, with a 14-second gap to Simo, I'm not too sure he's got enough time for the rest of this race to catch him. He'll have to do at least a second a lap to be comfortable, but you see he's already losing time in that chicane. That's not going to help his progress at all. In the back of the shot there, we've got Diovis, and we've got Brett chasing behind him as well, as Brett looks to make a move up the inside of Diovis. There'll be another place lost from the Slovenian there as Brett makes his way back up the order. As we saw Brett have an unfortunate spin at the start of the race, but he's done very well to put it back up in the 4th place. Commendable driving there from the Belgian, taking 4th place off of Diovis. Bid in 6th place, looks like he's just taken a place off of ART Rabbit as well, I believe. He's trying to keep that line tight on the inside, but no dice for him. Biddy will keep that 6th place. We've got a 3-way fight going on behind them as well, as ART Wayno, Lays and Willie D battle for those last few points places. Seth has predicted making his pit stop, so that will definitely put Simo into the lead, but where will it put Seth back into the pack? The last place he wants to be, I'm sure, is among these guys fighting for the last few points positions when Seth really needs to be at the top of the running order. Let's see as we ride on board there with Wayno on his super soft tyres. It's definitely helped him get back into the race, but he's got Oscar Zero breathing down his neck as well. Left and right in his rear view mirror. That's not what he wants to see when he's got cars in front and behind. This could easily end up an accident, and that's not what we want to see. Oscar's looking up the inside of Wayno. He's got one move done. He's going to get the double on Lays as well. Looks like he is as well. Fantastic driving there from Oscar Zero on those soft tyres. I'm sure he'll comfortably go to the end of this race. But excellent driving there from the Alpha. Let's get another look at that. As we see, he takes Wayno before he's even started to brake. Lays has run quite wide, possibly distracted by Willie D, allowing Oscar up the inside of him as well. And 2 places for the price of 1. Oscar Zero will be rubbing his hands with glee. They weren't so fixed to the steering wheel. Good job from Oscar. And he's not done there. He wants to make inroads on Willie D as well. You see him flying over that sausage curb, getting sideways out of the triple chicane, but he will not let that put him off. It's going to cost him time in the slipstream of Willie D. We see he's already about a second down, and Wayno is gaining behind him. Is there going to be a move from the McLaren? Not this time, but this is fantastic racing. This is what ART is all about, and as I said before, if you want to get involved, check out the Discord in the description, check out our website, and join Amigos Racing Team for a fantastic way to reinvigorate your enjoyment of Gran Turismo Sport. We know the format is stale, we know it's boring, and this is the place you want to be if you want to really make the most out of this game. So our race leader, now that we've had the pit stops made, as we get into the last quarter of our race, Simo's our race leader there with a 7.5 second gap over Seth F1, who did make his pit stop, has managed to come out on hard tyres and half a tank of fuel. So he has done fairly well to avoid the traffic behind him. But he's still 7 seconds adrift of Simo. Fortunately for him though, he is also 7 seconds adrift of Happy T in 3rd place. And to make matters worse, he's got Brett Riquet 6/10 just behind him. His hard tyres aren't in quite as good nick as they are on the Porsche, but with the extra power of that McLaren, I'm sure we'll see him try and make some gains along the straights, like down here as well. We can already see he's had a better exit out the chicane. He's now 4/10 down on the Porsche. 3/10, 2/10. Is he going to go for a move on the inside like he is? Happy T's left that space for him, but he's won a little bit wide. He's run a little bit wide as a result. So many letters, Lewis, so little time. So Brett's going to keep behind him then, knowing that he's probably got a better chance to make his move down the main straight, unless of course there's a mistake from Happy T in this tricky exit of the 2nd and start of the 3rd sectors respectively. As we carry on down the order then, we've got Beardy McBeard in 5th, running his own race for most of the event. He's quite happy with 5th, I'm sure. Oscar Zero looks like he's just gotten past Willie D as well. See if I can get a little clip of that. I'm probably too late for it. Has he run around the outside at the hairpin? That's a bonkers move from Oscar Zero. That might well be my overtake of the day. Fantastic driving there. That is what you call full send, and Willie D will not be happy with that at all. So Oscar's going to make the most of that super light alpha and the soft tyres to keep 6th place and hopefully even chase down Beardy for 5th. So, as mentioned, that puts Willie D down to 7th place. His soft tyres probably won't last very much long compared to the Alfa Romeo, and he may well start losing time to Wayno behind him. But he's on the super soft tyres, so his tyres will also be quite tricky as they get to the end. Rabbit, you see on the left, has just pitted there from 9th place, as has Lays from 10th place. This will put Dioris up into 9th respectively. And at the back of our grid, okay, that's Lays now, because it's now Tom Williams overtaking the 2 in the pit lane. So we may well see, those 2 drivers at the back slap on a set of soft tyres, if not super soft tyres, to finish their race. Although I think it's safe to say that the strategy call for today would have been to try the one stop, as the pit lanes are so costly now, where it was much more practical in the past to run multiple stints on the soft tyres and throw in 1 lap on the hards at the end, especially for the Gran Turismo races with obligatory tyre usage. It's just not plausible anymore. You've really got to conserve the tyres and conserve fuel, and I think that's much more reason why you should take part in these league races, where we've got such a wide variety of strategies on offer, where you're not just following the meta from a tutorial that you get on YouTube. You've got to make your own decisions here. You've got to practice. So of course, if you want to take part in one of these leagues, you're bound to see a practice lobby set up, and I'm sure drivers are more than welcome for you to nip in, see what's going on, have a feel for the event, maybe even take part in it if you want to. All we've got to do is get in touch with us. But this is really what it's all about, actually having to plan your racing out, think about where you're going to be in 2, 3, 4 laps time, what a pit stop is going to cost you in terms of time, in terms of traffic. And I think as we run aboard here with Simo flashing the lights there coming out of the triple chicane, hello Simo, I think he's pulled off a very good strategy choice today, going for that one stop, trying to minimise his losses in the pit lane and use the nimbleness of that Porsche, especially through that tricky 2nd, 3rd sector complex, to pull away from the pack. We see that he's got just over 2.5 seconds there to Seth behind him, but on a much fresher set of hard tyres. Is there going to be enough time in the race for those hards to fall off the cliff for Simo and to fall into the hands of Seth F1? I'm not too sure. I think if we got 10 minutes left, he's going to have to gain about 4/10 a lap just to be side by side with them as they cross the line. And I'm not sure he's going to have that much in the bank, but we will have to see. Regardless, he's got a fairly healthy gap back there to Brett in 3rd place. I think Brett will be trying to fight for that last spot on the podium, as we see Happy T bearing down on him in 4th place respectively. A very good race for the debutant today for the MR Challenge. He showed his pace in qualifying with an exceptional time. I'd say second only comparatively by Simo on the medium tyre, but I'm sure Happy T will be looking for a podium spot for his first event in this series. Of course, we've only got one more left in this mini-series, but I'll be very surprised if it doesn't return for a second season. It's been extremely popular, with a second tier running for the drivers who didn't quite make it on their ability. You had to open up a second lobby. It's been that popular. So as we see there, Happy T bearing down on that black and green McLaren down the home straight. We've got about 10.5 minutes left. So I'd only imagine we've got maybe 7 more laps in this race, if I'm calculating rightly, but I could be wrong. My maths has been horribly off before. So these two are still duking it out for that final spot on the podium, as Happy T gets a half-second penalty there. Maybe cut a little bit more of the chicane than Gran Turismo was pleased with, and he'll have to try and avoid that distraction flashing in the front of his screen as he makes his way around the rest of this race. We've only got 10 minutes left. So as again, we'll have a look through our running order as we get through into these last 10 minutes. We've got Simo first. Seth, it looks like Simo must have made a huge mistake, because now Seth has gained from 2.5 seconds to absolutely nothing as they're going side by side through one apex, through 2 apex, and Seth has made that move stick, but Simo will be right behind him in the 3rd one and in the 4th one. Each time I want to check through the running order, something's happened. This is why I love commentating on these races. We see Seth there covering that outside line and probably going to try and make Simo work for that move as they head down the main straight. Although, of course, it might be worth them maybe just keeping together, staying away from Gr.4 and having their own battle for the last segments of this competition. As we can see there, Seth has decided to open that gap up from Simo already. Half a second as they make their way down the main straight. Even more so, Simo doesn't get an optimal line out of turn 1. And it looks like this may have completely shifted the balance of that race. I feel bad I didn't quite see what's happened there. But if I remember rightly, Simo was about 2.7 seconds ahead of Seth, and it's just evaporated while I'm babbling on about something else. So those two will be fighting out for the lead now. Meanwhile, we've got Brett in 3rd, Happy T in 4th. He's worn some of that penalty off, but he's still got a little bit more to go. Beardy McBeard in 5th place, with a very healthy gap there to Tom Williams. That now be Willie D as he comes out of the pit, I mean, Tom Williams will be chasing him down, but Willie D on the super soft tyres, I'm sure he won't be worried about that at all. Oscar Zero has had to pit as well. It's a shame to see him pit, but he's now competing with ART Rabid on the pit exit. I believe they both pitted at the same time. I'll double check that now. Knows that Rabid's been out for a little while longer, but Oscar's come out just in front of him on the super soft tyres. So he'll be an absolute rocket through these corners, but Rabid is definitely going to have the advantage on him down the straights. Let's have a look then as he rides on board with ART Rabid. He's lost a little bit of time there coming out the corners. Of course, the Alfa Romeo, a little bit lighter with much grippier tyres on there, will have the edge in the traction zones. But if Rabid can cut off more of this corner than Oscar Zero does, which he has, there should be a little bit more of an advantage. And he does indeed. He takes a 10th out of him alone, just on the exit of that corner. But this is where we see the Alfa come into its own now. As Oscar Zero makes his way through that right-hand kink into this long sweeping, slightly off camber left-hand. You've got to be very careful as you run over that rumble strip. But Oscar has now increased that gap to almost a second just out of those two corners. I'm sure we'll only see it amplify here as we go through this quadruple apex. It's 1.1 seconds, 1.2 seconds. And he'll now be in the toe of Tommy's in front. So that's now 1.3 seconds. So Oscar's really throwing the Alfa Romeo across the track using all the grip of these super soft tyres to his advantage. We see he's now taken already half that slipstream time out of Tom Williams as he heads down onto the main straight. Tom wants to pit, but Oscar hasn't given him the space. He's just about gone into the pits there. That could have been a huge accident. But Oscar Zero has fortunately managed to escape the slipstream of ART Rabid, but that's cost him some time and he'll be back in the slipstream. This is a huge twist of events here. I would not want to be Oscar right now trying to fend off that McLaren behind him. But you see, every corner he goes through, he's just got so much more grip. He's going to pull away each time he turns the steering wheel. So there he's getting a bit slidey again through that right-hander, but jumping over the sausage clever, that might well incur him a penalty, and it does indeed, half a second. So that will be something else flashing up in front of his face that might put him off. But he's now 1 second ahead of ART Rabid, which is where he wants to be with another 6 minutes left in this race. If he can keep this up, he might well be able to extend that gap to about 1.5 seconds by the end, provided nothing else goes wrong. So let's try this again then. We had Seth, who's now jumped 2 seconds ahead of Simo. I feel bad for Simo now. He almost had this race in the palm of his hand and it slipped through like grains of sand. They've still got a healthy gap back to Gr.4 though in 3rd place. We can just see Happy T trailing him at the back of the shot there as he went round the corner. He's got an 11-12 second gap now back to Beardy McBeard as he heads through the last 2 corners. And then we've got Willie D in 6th place. And that gap that Tom Williams has now vacated to Oscar Zero puts him into 7th place, with Rabid's now 1.1 seconds down on Oscar. Again, as mentioned, he's making all these gains through the corners and putting his foot down as he leaves them, and Rabid just has not got the same level of grip as the Alfa Romeo. You can see his front tyres are looking very worn already. You can see the back of the shot there as well. Wayno in 9th place. It's good to see him back up in the point scoring positions, but he has got Diovis right on his tail on a set of super soft tyres. This could be an interesting battle then as they get through into this corner. We see Wayno washing slightly wide. Diovis keeping a much tighter line, gaining on that purple and green Amigos McLaren. Will he make a move into the chicane? I'm not sure it's the safest place to do it. He won't. He's going to stay back for the time being, try and get a better line through the chicane. We can see Wayno's really holding him up here on that less grippy compound, and that's cost him time as they get out of the chicane there. But it looks like Diovis will have to use the grip on the super soft tyres in that 2nd and 3rd sector to try and reduce that distance. And then at the back of the field, we can see at the very back of the camera there, Lays One Star coming out of the chicane, and Tom Williams at the back of the pack. He's thrown on those super soft tyres, but is it too late for him? We'll have to see. Hopefully there are no more pit stops to be made in the last 5 minutes, but any there are, I'm sure will give Tom Williams a chance to make some inroads. Now we can see an enormous try and follow up. I think that's behind Oscar Zero, if I jump aboard with him. So he's cleared Rabbit now by 2 seconds already. So he'll be very happy to see that on his delta on the left of his screen. Rabbit, meanwhile, I don't think we're very happy to know that he's got Diovis still within a second of him, and he's got Wayno creeping into the back of this race as well. So we could have a fight on our hands here for Rabbit. If he can keep these soft tyres intact, he should be alright for 8th place. But if not, he may well be competing just for the very dregs of the championship points. Goodness me, it's all going on tonight here at the Group 4 MR Challenge. It's always a pleasure to commentate. Last week's one was absolutely bonkers to try and keep up with, and it's been a little bit easier tonight, but it's been by no means a dull show. So we see that Dio is running very wide, using all of that rumble strip on his super soft tyres. Let's see, how much can he gain on Rabbit through his chicane? He's 8 tenths down. Now 6 and a bit tenths down, 5.5 tenths down. So he's gained 3 tenths, if not 4 tenths, just through those 3 corners there. What is he going to be able to do as he chases down Rabbit? Is going to be a move on into the hairpin. He looks right, Rabbit covers the middle of the track. He's not going to go around the outside here, surely. I don't think he is. Maybe he's going to try and go for a sneaky cutback on the inside, which he does. Rabbit runs extremely wide, and Diovis has that push out of the corner into 8th place. Very good driving there from the Slovene. Let's have another look at that one. So we see he's in the slipstream. We can see he looks right, forces Rabbit to cover the middle of the track, but he's just not got the grip in his tyres anymore, and it's a fairly easy cutback for Diovis. There might have been a little bit of contact as they evened up towards this little left-right kink, but it looks like they've kept it in one piece, which is always good to see. Rabbit, though, will not have given up on that very easily. We can see Diovis is also, his fuel was now ticked over into that dangerously low red level. Has he got enough left in the tank to keep Rabbit at bay for another, what I believe will be 2 laps? It will be an exciting one to see. And of course, with Wayno lurking in the back of this 3-way as well, is there going to be a chance for him to grab any more points? So, with just over a minute and a half to go, our running order is Seth F1, who's now got an easy 6-second gap to Simo, but all he's got to do now is manage his fuel. You can see he's running very low as well. Simo in 2nd place, you see his hard tyres are drastically more worn than Seth's. And I think trying to keep it on the track as well, he's lost another couple of seconds there to Brett Rickett in 3rd place. Meanwhile, he's still got Happy T in his rearview mirror in 4th place. A good initial race here from Happy T, but running onto the gravel is not going to help him if he wants to be on the podium. Then as we jump back down the pack, we've got Beardy McBeard in 5th place, and he's got Willie D right behind him there. I'm not sure Beardy's got enough fuel to last the rest of this race as Willie D looks around the outside. And that's a very bold move there from the Falcon McLaren. Excellent driving from Willie D. And he's now going to try and take that gap and run with it as he gets through the quadruple apex. Let's have another look at that move again. We see there, Willie D gets a very good run out of the hairpin, it seems, and just goes to the inside of Beardy McBeard. Maybe there's some contact there or some lag spiking, I'm not too sure. But then all the way around the outside of this tricky cambered left-hander. Fantastic driving there. We can see now he's ready to open up that gap to 2.5 seconds almost on the super soft tyres. So Beardy, I think, will have to be content for 6th place. But as I say that, you can see now just sneaking into the shot is Oscar Zero, and we know on those super soft tyres he is going to be a handful. I think this will be a battle to watch as the timer trickles down. Are these guys going to have... Oh, I see he's taken that place already. I'm trying to see who's going to cross the line for another lap. Looks like Oscar's got that job done while I'm rabbiting off on myself there. So you see, he's obviously had a fantastic exit out of the corner there behind him. And as we see Beardy on those really worn mediums, he just hasn't got the turn in. I think he's just let Oscar go perhaps, knowing that there's no point fighting him. And presumably that the cars behind are still going to have another lap to do. So, as we jump back a little way there, we've got Rabid, Wayno and Diovis, the last ones on a lap. But it looks like we've still got some fighting going on further up the road. So we'll double check in on Seth as he's about to cross the line. So I'm sure we'll see him now use up the rest of the fuel in that Porsche and enjoy a very well-deserved victory there for Seth F1. Good job to Seth, finishing comfortably 7.5 seconds ahead of Simo, who's did extremely well in his qualifying and a very well-deserved P2. Well done, Simo. We've now got Brett trying to fend off Happy T at the very end of the race. Whose race is going to be there? It's going to be neck and neck to the line. Looks like Happy T's run out of fuel on the line. Poor guy. Happy T in fourth there. Meanwhile, Willie D looks like he's managed to just hold off from Oscar Zero. For that last lap, we know he was absolute lightning, especially the 1:37.8, the fastest time of the day. Willie D is going to take home that 5th place, and Oscar Zero is going to take home a very well fought 6th place. Beardy is going to cross the line in 7th place. He's just run out of fuel, but comfortably ahead of ART Rabid and Wayno in 9th place. And the last driver to finish his lap will be Diovis, coming home in 10th. So that was the ART Group 4 MR Challenge Round 5 with our race winner here, ART Seth F1, starting on pole position. Perhaps a little bit fortunate that he gained a place to Simo towards the end of the race there, but nonetheless a very well deserved victory for the Aussie. So let's look at our race results one more time before we pack up for the evening. We have Seth F1 at the top of the standings, Simo in 2nd, Brett Raquette in 3rd place, Happy T in 4th, Willie D in 5th, Oscar Zero in 6th, Beardy McBeard in 7th, ART Rabbit in 8th, ART Wayno in 9th, ART Diovis in 10th, Lays One Star in 11th, and Tom Williams in 12th place. That's going to be all of the proceedings for this evening. I hope you've enjoyed watching the race. I've been your commentator, SuperSquid, and if you want to get involved with our races, check our description below for means to get involved. Enjoy the rest of your Friday evening, stay safe and take care. Good night.